Now, this is a very interesting development as one player in particular away at the Olympics speaks out on the Red Wings captain, and this changes everything for this team's future as Steve Yzerman has the opportunity to make this team unstoppable. But not only that, we're going to break down multiple other updates as players have returned from the Olympic break to practice, and we have an update on some of the statuses of players returning from the Olympics. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Red Wings Digest. But before we get into all of that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Mark, we've noticed that about 98% of you guys watching the videos on a regular basis are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's about to happen with the Detroit Red Wings, it's about to get busy. Trade deadlines around the corner, and this team is poised for a playoff run this spring. Go down below, hit that free subscribe button. You get to stay up to date with everything going on with the Red Wings. But let's get right into it, Mark. There's a lot of things to get to, and we'll start with this quote from Quinn Hughes at the Olympics. He was speaking out on playing with Dylan Larkin. Of course, a crazy overtime thriller against Sweden, and a very interesting quote from the newly acquired Minnesota Wild.
And I think the big thing right now with Quinn Hughes, of course, we've seen the name kind of float around. The Detroit Red Wings were linked to Quinn Hughes, of course, going into before he was traded. But of course, we've seen the trade that did happen, getting Marco Rossi, Liam Olgren, a first-round pick, and many other pieces like Zeev Boyum. And this kind of made it feel like that Yzerman didn't want to give it up. But looking at this quote, Darius, we could see that he speaks on how he met Larkin, how he's been a big brother, a big part, and how he sent great messages to him. It's one of the situations, and even looking through the career of Quinn Hughes, he always spoke about wanting to win. And with the Detroit Red Wings, I don't know if you feel differently or if the viewers feel differently, but it's one of the things it feels like not only does he love Dylan Larkin, he grew up in the Michigan area, he played in Michigan when he went to college. Darius, it feels like one of those things. If the Minnesota Wild do not go on a deep run, if they're a first round exit like we see most years, this is a team, the Detroit Red Wings, that can make a point, go out, win a couple of rounds over the next 2 seasons. And I don't know, I feel almost overconfident to say that it feels like at this point, Quinn Hughes' next team is the Detroit Red Wings at this point.
Well, like you said, he did spend a lot of time growing up in Toronto, but obviously grew up in the Michigan area, playing hockey there for a long time. And, Dylan Larkin, he spoke out on him even further. And he went on to say that, of course, like you mentioned, the big brother aspect, he loves playing with him. He's a leader on that team, and they just have that, relationship going on. So does that mean he's going to become a Red Wing tomorrow? Well, no, that's not going to happen. The Minnesota Wild acquired him for a reason. They want to go on a deep playoff run and all of that stuff. But his contract does expire at the end of next year. And if the Wild look like they're not going to win Stanley Cups, that's what he wants to do. And the Detroit Red Wings are a team on the rise. We've talked about it a lot, especially their defense core right now. If you were to add a piece like that, you would almost become unstoppable in the league. They're a great, inexperienced team in the league if you're talking about playoffs at this point, and they're only going to get better. So if you were to add Quinn Hughes, it would make any team a playoff contention team, right, at that point. Now, the other interesting thing I wanted to mention, you brought it up briefly, is the Red Wings were in the race to acquire Quinn Hughes, right? I feel like this is not going to quiet down until Quinn Hughes officially signs a brand new contract extension with any team. It's not going to slow down. It's not going to calm down. It's not going to quiet down, right? And the reason for that is because, the link to Michigan, of course, and the fact that Steve Yzerman was, pouring prospects out there in terms of a trade return to the Vancouver Canucks. We know that they were involved. Minnesota ended up winning the sweepstakes because of the prospects that were involved in that trade. But the Red Wings can go toe-to-toe with almost anybody in the league with their draft capital and the prospects that they have in the system. So I think this is far from over. I feel like this chatter is going to get heightened even next season until he signs a contract extension, which we know, of course, can happen until this July. But if it doesn't come on July 1st, I feel like there's going to be a lot of chatter about it. And it seems like he's developing a relationship there with the captain of the Red Wings. And man, Quinn Hughes as a Red Wing would be insane for the development of a lot of these other players on the team and would make them, I think, a Stanley Cup contender with the goaltending of John Gibson as well.
Because I think the big thing with Quinn Hughes, I understand Stevie sitting down and saying, hey, we don't want to move on from 3 of our prospects, a first-round pick and maybe more draft capital to beat out the Minnesota Wild, especially with a young team looking to develop and get into the playoffs for the first time in quite some time. But Darius, looking at the future, going into free agency, not this season, of course, the following season, if McLellan doesn't sign his contract, this is the type of player you give any dollar amount that you can to get him on the contract. If you pair him with Mo, that is undisputedly the best defensive pairing in the NHL and probably in the top 20 all time when looking at the numbers. Offensively, Quinn has been outstanding. A Norris winner just a couple of seasons ago. This is the type of thing that I think Dylan Larkin gets he gets undervalued, where he can pull a lot of guys in, even looking on social media. Of course, the Kachucks are considered the heart and soul of the USA. But what Dylan Larkin has been doing, what most players will tell you on the team, even speaking to Brady Tkachuk, he's the X factor. He's playing the penalty kill. He's playing 5-on-5. He's a big scorer. He's a fantastic player. I think the influence that Dylan Larkin is going to have on some of these players, of course, you can't tamper. I'm not going to sit here and say Dylan Larkin's pulling Quinn Hughes and say, hey, you're coming with me to Michigan. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of players are really starting to notice at this first Olympics, with multiple NHL players having their first time, that Dylan Larkin is the type of guy you want to play with. And with Detroit on the rise, I think they're going to be big buyers over the next 2 seasons when we hit free agency.
And Dylan Larkin also, a lot of people forget, hasn't had the opportunity to play in the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? The Red Wings haven't made the playoffs for a long time, a decade at this point. It looks like they are headed there, and he gets his first of the Olympics, and you can see here with the live action shot. Thank you to Stephen Ellis for this, of course, with obviously having fun with the copyright rules with the IOC and the Olympics and all of that stuff. But obviously a big goal there, and Team USA, the time we're recording this, on their way to a semifinals matchup, which should be a very interesting one. And the way that this Olympics has played out, a lot of the games are super tight, but a lot of players are coming to play, and Dylan Larkin is one of them. And like you mentioned, he's played with Team USA before. He's been in that system for a long time, and he is one of the heart and soul players on this team. There's a lot of players, of course, everybody wants to win, right? But he is one of those guys that everybody looks at as the big brother type on the team, that he is a leader on that team, that is for sure. And many teams, all good teams, need multiple leaders, right? And guys to just step up in those moments. And Dylan Larkin is doing that in the Olympics right now. And he's going to take that back, as he always does, to the Red Wings and lead them to their first playoff berth in a long time. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But all that aside, I think, it would be interesting to watch what happens with Dylan Larkin. But a couple things to touch on here that I want to touch on before we wrap up, Mark, is, you look at the standings, return to play happening very soon. Next week, all the games are resuming, and you have to stay in the race. You have to hit the ground running. Todd McLellan has the boys running gauntlet drills at practice, which is you line up on one side of the boards, you go through everybody, body checking you basically till you get to the bench. So they're running those drills in practice. They're trying to get a little bit tougher, get back into things. Guys have been sitting at home. I know certain players have been skating, but guys have been sitting on their couch for a couple weeks at this point, which is good. People need rest sometimes, but just wanted to bring that up. And in terms of an update on the guys returning from the Olympics as well, we do have an update there that Mo Seider and Lucas Raymond will not skate this weekend. There was a rumor going around, or the thought was that they would rejoin the team, and that doesn't seem like it's going to happen, that they're going to take the weekend off and rejoin the team for practice next week, when Larkin eventually joins them too after the medal round, which will be fun to watch. So should be pretty interesting week next week as the Red Wings continue their race to capture a playoff spot. But let us know how you feel in the comments below on Dylan Larkin, the possibility of acquiring Quinn Hughes. I think it's more real than people realize. It's a little ways away. It's not going to happen tomorrow or anything like that, but should be pretty interesting. Let us know how you feel in the comments below, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything Red Wings.